Hi friends. Today I'm going to talk about the 4 ways that I seem to experience these psychic visions. And I have had people ask me about that from time to time. Or I think that a question, people have is, well, if you're psychic, what is that like? What does that feel like? What do you think? What do you think is happening? And I think that if you are interested in the stuff, that at some point you have to, I don't know, kind of have your own theories and thoughts and look into it. So, along with the grimoire that I, found from my early 20s, inside of it was I had described these 2 ways that I think that the psychic phenomena either works or that it's happening. And then I added a couple more, and I just thought that I'd share that. I'm sorry if you hear the humming in the background. I have to leave the computer on because I really wanted to expand on this a little bit, and I have a video rendering anyway. So here we go. I would say that that this way that I'm going to talk about is the most common way that I experience psychic phenomena in general. And it is like, I also can do this with living people, but generally, I don't try to intrude on people's lives, but it's like if something is very emotional or important to a person, I can experience that way. Like it's like a movie. And so then I can tune in to what they're thinking. And, I'll kind of go from there. Most of the time I never mention anything because besides my cult channel, I live a pretty normal life. But yeah, like watching a movie. Now, some of the features of this is that it's like, it looks like cars are going back in time, or the way people are dressed. It's really hard for me to describe, except I was a 90s kid and we had the VHSs, and then you would put it in the rewinder. Or you could do it in the player itself, rewind it. That's almost what it looks like it's going back in time in this way. And that's usually when I'm trying to connect with oh my gosh. Well, y'all must think I live in a bad neighborhood, but I really don't. Not too bad. I just, I have no idea why we're hearing the police again recently. But anyway, it looks like it's going back in time. And so, like, I'm trying to I'm dropping my consciousness, trying to connect with this. And while I'm doing that, it's like it's going back in time. So it's 90s and 80s and 70s until I connect with that time period that I'm trying to go to. And it does look like a VHS rewind. And that's like a movie really describes the way that is feeling. And then another feature to that I wrote down is that it seems like another part of the whole movies is that I think this is dead people and also residual energy from the environment. And it's one of the two, but it doesn't really matter because it's just, I'm processing this information now, portraying to me what they do. So like, ghosts and dead people same thing. They can't, it takes a lot for them to make physical noises and the traditional haunting stuff. Usually they're very much just stuck in the astral plane. It takes a lot for them to really affect the physical plane that we're in. So instead, when I connect with them, they show me things that they do. Like, you know, you hear, let's say you hear banging on the walls, and I kind of read the energy. Then I'll see, like, for example, I saw a gentleman who was beating on the walls with his cane because he was angry because he didn't know why his daughter didn't come back to check on him. Like, he was kind of in denial of being dead. So with that in mind, he would bang on the walls trying to summon her attention. But the living people in this house, they just hear banging on the walls that they can't explain. So I think that, and you know, in that case, this guy was very much a conscious energy. I mean, even regular living people could see him as an apparition. And he made some objects disappear. So in that case, he was just showing me, though, basically what life is like for him after death and what it really is like showing me the movie of what he's doing. So that's very common. That really is like the most common way. I mean, and by the same token, but for a different reason. There's some roads around this state park that I like to go, and before you get there, there's a lot of energy where I saw a boy getting hit by a vehicle on his bike, but I just saw it little snippets of, like, if you ever watched whatever those Vine clips on YouTube, that's what that is for me. So this is just happening really fast, and it's not conscious. He's not trying, I mean, this isn't an actual little boy anymore. This is just the environmental energies, and so because I'm open, I can pick that up. Same thing though, looks like a movie. And then the last thing I also said about that is that it is like if somebody is passing away, that's because that's what people want the most information about, and I zoom in on that moment. It's like I'm able to be there in the moment but not interact with the environment. Like I'm so close to this movie that's happening before me, but the living people of what this, I mean, almost like this memory is happening, I can't interact with it. I certainly probably wouldn't want to anyway. And then I can slow this down a little bit if I really focus enough to get some details. And then, you know, the spirit guides will filter some of this out for me. So, with my example previously in a video was that Bathan stepped forward from the shadows and cut this cord that this dead person was attaching to me. I was unaware of it, but that's what I have spirit guides for, and that's what the demons of the Goetia kind of can help me with. So by stepping in and saying that, or doing that, that is protecting me. So they also will sometimes, it's like they're in the shadows of my mind, and it's like if you think about a horizon and there's just a little bit of light and it's just shadows, they'll form out of these shadows. And sometimes that's how my visions work too, but they'll form out of these shadows and they'll whisper in the astral plane information to me like, it's time to go, don't do that, or it's not even full words, but it's just they'll get that point across to me, like it's time for me to go, or that, you know, which usually means that I'm too open to this energy, and it's not good for me. It's like you should only spend a small amount of time doing this kind of stuff anyway, if you're going to, because death energy is just not good for you as a living person. So they'll tell me specifically these kinds of things in warnings. And for me, especially working with Samagina, it's like they'll shout at me. Like these shadows, they shout information. I'm not actually hearing it in reality, but from the astral plane. And it is very much to get my attention, and I do pay attention to that. Another way is that it's like having a conversation with the dead person. This is much less common for me, much less common. Now that usually does mean if I have a conversation with a dead person on the astral plane or whatever entity, then they've usually already formed an attachment to me. So they're going to be in my space, and they're in my energetic body now, and so therefore they're feeding off of me a little bit, and can use that to feed my mind this information about what they want to say. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's not that bad. It just wrecks my train of thought a little bit. Speaking of train wrecks and disasters, but it's like then there's not a difference in time. Like, it's not like a movie. Now I'm just having this conversation. So even like one example that stands out is that a guy from I think the 1800s, he attached himself to me after an investigation, and then it was like he was talking to me, and he was with me for like a week until I was able to help him move on. But while that was happening, it was like constantly feeling like, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like it's what the part of this is your imagination. Like if you were to imagine that you have an imaginary friend, or it's like when you work with angels or demons and gods and spirits, and if you were to imagine what it would be like if they talked to you and had a conversation, that's what this is. When I'm not paying attention to, hey, I need to do this on the computer, or I'm in the present moment exactly, then that will overcome my consciousness, and then I can pick up on this conversation. And I think that is also, to me, that means that I have an astral body too. And so I'm like, how do I have a conversation? Because it's not in real time. I'm projecting my consciousness that looks like a person. It looks like a combination of me now and my last life, which looked very similar anyway. But it's very similar to what you have going on now, except it just looks a little bit more ideal, like an idealized version of yourself. Everybody has an astral body, it's just not everybody is aware of it. So that's what that looks like for me. And also it exaggerates your problem. So if you let's say you have a head cold, then your astral body can end up looking like they have like black circles under their eyes, or very disheveled. Because it is an exaggeration of yourself. So that, my astral body is what is having a conversation with this conscious dead person. And it is my thoughts, and it is what I would like to say. It just happens in a split second. So of course I'm not walking around talking to myself. Like, it happens faster than reality, like a real-time conversation. But I'll tell people, like, I mean, I'll have I'll have arguments with the dead, or tell them my thoughts about, you know, what I truly think, and I mean, obviously my goal as well is to convince them that they're deceased, and or that, like, their home is just stuff and now it's going to be time to move on. You know, and it's kind of like, I guess I'll talk a little bit more just because it's already running into whatever, a second video here, because this is sort of in depth anyway. So let me see what I brought up here for. Okay, now this one, this is like my least favorite. This way. The fourth way I would describe it is, the beginning of that actually is